Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based story adventure game app thing that is free on both Android and iOS. And there's a lot of different playthroughs that you could be doing, so I highly recommend everyone download it. The playthrough we are doing right now is a Smart Good Berry run-through that the main character's name is Barry. I'll switch over now. Yeah, and I believe we're in the middle of chapter 10 right now. Oops. Okay. Where we're leaving off, they're trying to escape an ogre fort. And they just reached the end of a very long tunnel as they're escaping, and the ogre shaman, is there waiting for them, along with other mages, and they didn't expect it, because the banshee they have with them who can sense auras was reading them somewhere else. Oh, don't be so modest, shaman, Araka says as she changes the blue dot corresponding to the shaman into a green color. You must have had at least some idea of what was happening, otherwise you wouldn't have purposely taken the magical signature of one of your troops when you came down here in order to trick my magical sense. What's that decoy that you left behind with your own magical signature anyway? A clone? No, the shaman says. It's one of my followers holding an artifact that copies my aura. Fascinating, Araka says as she changes the original green dot's color into blue. How did you find out where we were? Aluna says. The captain and I had a telepathic link, which was meant to warn me once he left the realm of the living, the shaman says. You're going to pay for this, you little traitor. My followers are going to turn you all into ashes. He then raises his staff in the air, and the 5 other ogres step in front of him, casting fireballs in unison at us. Hadrick and Darren both step in front as well, in order to form our first line of defense. The dwarf focuses his aura in his fists, and he sends 2 of the fireballs back at the ogres. Darren places his sword in front of him, absorbing the other 3 fireballs within it. He then slashes his flaming sword towards the ogres and sends a powerful fire beam back at them, which burns them all into a crisp. You've done it now, the shaman says, with a dark look in his eyes as he looks at the ashes of his 5 followers. I didn't plan to use this on you, but you leave me no choice. He then smacks his staff into the ground, and the whole room gets filled with a thick gray fog. As the fog clears a bit, I realize that we are no longer standing in the middle of a cavern, but on an open plain, and it appears to be snowing? My eyes are not deceiving me. It really is snowing. There's a thick layer of snow on the ground, and the trees I see in the distance are all covered in snow as well. Could this be an illusion? Damn it, Uraka says. I completely lost track of him. He went invisible again, and I can't sense his aura at all. Actually, I can't feel any of your auras either. What the hell? You aren't the only one, Kate says. I've completely lost my magical sense as well. Could this have anything to do with the fog? No, Aluna says. This is a shaman ritual. Basically, it's a very advanced mind-affecting spell. We're not in the real world anymore, and thus there are different rules. We're not missing only our magical senses, but also our magical powers. You are already wearing collars, so you can't tell the difference, but Uraka and I cannot cast any spells at this moment. Also, it would appear that ranged weapons are not allowed either since Barry's crossbow is gone. I think magical items are still functional, though, since the shaman must have used his staff in order to turn invisible. So what's happening in the real world right now? Or how do we get out of here? If there's anyone that's conscious that would like to help me select an option here, please do so. If not, I will select one in like a minute. So what's happening in the real world right now? Does the shaman plan to kill us while we're trapped in here? No, Aluna says. Shaman rituals are different from other mind-affecting spells. First of all, time flows differently in this place. A year spent in this world amounts to only 1 second in the real world. Secondly, the shaman is also trapped in here with us. So what's the purpose then? Hadrick says. Isn't this like some sort of dream? Aren't we just going to wake up once we die? You may not be familiar with these types of spells since they aren't that common on other continents, Aluna says, but this isn't anything like a dream. You can feel pain, you can concentrate without waking up, and if you die here, you die in the real world as well. What's actually happening, it is live. Welcome in Lordos. Lordos? Lordos. Welcome in Lordos. Thank you for the first time chat. I saw that you followed a couple days ago. I'm pretty sure. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. And I'm doing a smart, good barrier run through, so if it's a smart or a good option, I'll normally make the decision, but otherwise I'll normally ask the chat their opinion. So you guys can still interact if you'd like. If you just want to listen, then just don't answer and I'll make a decision. But welcome in. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. I love this game. It is free on both Android and iOS, and I have a lot of respect for the author. He has 5 books planned, and they're still coming out. He's about to release the last chapter of the 3rd book. And then he also codes it himself for both Android and iOS, which is just 2 different coding languages. I have so much respect for the author. And as such, I did get his permission before reading this, even though I probably could have gotten away with it since it's free. You make choices. Here, I can... So, these are the choices that I've made recently. Since I started again. And also, there's stats. He carries a stat device, So as I go through, like if I were to try and get into a fight and I didn't put anything into strength, I could die, or if I want to do something and I didn't put anything into ancient languages, then yeah, it's a text-based D&D inspired adventure. Choose your own adventure game. And it's really good. If you don't want to play it yourself, all of the previous readings that I've done are on my YouTube. If you just want to listen to this one and you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. Where was... You may not be familiar with these types of spells since they aren't that common on other continents, Aluna says, but this isn't anything like a dream. You can feel pain, you can concentrate without waking up, and if you die here, you die in the real world as well. What's actually happening is that our souls from the ethereal plane are no longer directly connected to the earthen plane, but to another pocket universe from the ethereal plane. In order to reattach our souls to our bodies, we'd need to close our eyes, think about the last moments before we were transported here, get a clear image of those caverns into our heads, and then focus on it, with the conviction that the image in our heads represents the real world, while the world we are standing in is only an illusion. The image in our heads would then slowly start to become more vivid, until it would eventually replace the world in front of our eyes. And in order to get out of here, we would all need to do that, Darren asks, including the shaman. Exactly, Aluna says. Our problem is the shaman. Until we get rid of him, we won't be able to return to the real world. That's why he trapped himself in here with us. So, how are we supposed to fight him if he's got complete control of this world? Hadrick says. Wouldn't it be like fighting some sort of god? No, Aluna says. The shaman does not have any control over this world. He only created it. Once he trapped himself in here, he became forced to follow the same rules as the rest of us. That is the nature of these shaman rituals. He doesn't have any magic either, except for the spells in his staff, and since he's been gracious enough to let us finish our conversation, I would suspect that he has no intention of fighting us head on. He must be waiting for something. As the fog disappears completely, we see that there are several pairs of eyes shining in the dark depths of the forest, and we start to hear several low, continuous growls as the creatures are getting closer. When they come out of the woods, we learn that they are, in fact, when they come out of the woods, we learn that they are in fact wolves, though they are at least 3 times the size of normal ones, and their fur is as black as coal. 5 of them start running towards our group, while Darren and Hadrick step in front of us and assume their battle stances. 3 of the wolves go right. 3 of the wolves go right for them, and the other 2 circle around and go for Kate and Aluna instead. Darren defended himself with his shield from one wolf while he sliced the other's head clean off. Hadrick punched the 3rd wolf in its mouth and sent 3 of its fangs flying as the animal squealed in pain. Kate was fighting the beast with her daggers in hand. The animal dashed towards her, but she managed to get behind it in the blink of an eye, and she slit its throat with a single motion, as her hands got drenched in the wolf's blood. The look in her eyes changed completely when she started fighting the wolf. She's always had a sort of feral look about her, but this was more than that. This wasn't her just being ruthless or efficient. Those were the eyes of a beast hunting its prey. This must be why she was able to survive alone in a jungle at the age of 12, before she even had any magic. In order to avoid being hunted, she was forced to become the hunter instead. Aluna, who didn't have any weapons, started jumping around using Flower's acrobatic techniques in order to confuse the wolf and avoid getting bitten. Once Darren and Hadrick finished dealing with their own wolves, they came and killed the one attacking Aluna as well. This is why the shaman didn't take any actions, Hadrick said. He was too busy getting away from here so that his own wolves wouldn't attack him. Luckily for us, he left a trail of footsteps in the snow that we can easily follow. He then points towards the trail of footsteps left by the shaman, which leads into the only part of the forest which doesn't seem to be crawling with wolves. If we all go after the shaman now, we'll have to fight the wolves every step of the way, Darren says. That would only make it easier for him to finish us off. Someone should go after the shaman alone, while the rest of us provide a distraction. Preferably someone who is confident that he can defeat the shaman in a duel and who can handle himself against a few wolves, in case they don't all take the bait. Volunteer to go after the shaman. Let someone else volunteer for the job. Would anyone like to help make a decision here? I'll save. So if we make the wrong decision, we can always go back. And if no one wants to make a decision, or if everyone's asleep, I will make the decision for us, and I'll probably go with this one. Yeah. Okay. I volunteer for the job, I say. Oh, observation check successful, level 3. I volunteer for the job, I say. I should be able to handle the shaman by myself if he can only cast spells from his staff. Are you sure? Darren says. We don't know how many wolves are going to come out of that forest, I say. You and Hadrick should both stay here in case things get really bad. I'll try to end this as quickly as possible. Wish me luck. I then start running towards the woods in the direction of the shaman's footsteps. As I enter the forest, I start to slow down my pace, making sure that there are no traps or ambushes set up ahead of me. The footsteps have been leading me in the same direction since I started following them, and there have been no obstacles of any kind in my path since I walked into the woods. Could it be that the shaman was too busy getting as far away as possible from the wolves to lay down any kind of traps? I start to pick up my pace. while at the same time trying to remain as vigilant as possible. When it looks like I am finally starting to catch up with the shaman, I hide behind a tree. And then I take a good long look ahead of me. The trail of footsteps ends abruptly in the middle of the snow, and there is no one in sight. He must still be invisible. But why isn't he moving? Did he see me before I hid behind the tree? I suddenly realize that the snow is not completely uniform on the right side near the end of the trail of footsteps. It's barely noticeable, but it's definitely different from the rest of the snow. That's it. That's why he's not moving. He must have purposely made his tracks so easy to follow in order to boost my confidence and to make me attack without hesitation. He's trying to trick me into rushing towards the end of the trail, while in reality, he's covered his last set of tracks and he's waiting to attack me from behind. Judging by the looks of the snow, I think I can guess accurately enough where the shaman is actually standing. I grab my dagger firmly in both hands and I start rushing towards the shaman. The ogre panics and he dismisses his invisibility spell automatically as he prepares to attack me. Uh-oh. Speed check failed, level 2. Strength check failed, level 3. Just as I reach him, I hear a very loud screeching sound, and a semi-transparent barrier gets raised around him, which stops my dagger within inches of reaching him. The shaman grins maliciously at me, and then he starts charging up his staff again. He clearly thinks I can't get through his barrier without using magic. I wonder why that is. I've studied... Ray, welcome in. Thank you so much for the love. Love you too. He clearly thinks I can't get through his barrier without using magic. I wonder why that is. I've studied many books about barriers in my life, and this one definitely doesn't look like it's impervious to physical attacks. In any case, I don't have time to think this through. I'll use my full strength and try to get past his barrier before he finishes charging up his staff. I raise my arm and I put as much force behind my blow as I possibly can. This one? The kiss emojis were working. I don't know why they're not working anymore. Stop chatting and I'll... There. Oh, that one. Rude. Back atcha. In any case, I don't have the time to think this through. I'll use my full strength and try to get past his barrier before he finishes charging up his staff. I use my arm, and I put as much force behind my blow as I possibly can. When my dagger hits the barrier, I start feeling a strong vibration, and after a few seconds, my hand gets repelled with a force similar to the one behind my strike. My dagger flies from my hand, and before I have the time to go back and get it, the shaman finishes charging up his staff, while his whole barrier explodes outwards with a powerful wave of light, obliterating anything in its path. The last thing I got to see before I died was the light enveloping me as I felt the flesh and meat being burned off my bones. Alright, so load game. I'm going to go with the same choice, but I'm going to put strength here. Achievement unlocked. Defeat the ogre shaman. As I reach him, I hear a very loud screeching sound, and a semi-transparent barrier gets raised around him, which stops my dagger within inches of reaching him. The shaman grins maliciously at me, and then he starts charging up his staff again. He clearly thinks I can't get through his barrier without using magic. I wonder why that is. I've studied many books about barriers in my life, and this one definitely doesn't look like it's impervious to physical attacks. In any case, I don't have the time to think this through. I'll use my full strength and try to get past his barrier before he finishes charging up his staff. I raise my arm, and I put as much force behind my blow as I possibly can. When my dagger hits the barrier, I start feeling a strong vibration for about a second, but then the whole thing shatters just like a dome made of glass, and I manage to stab the shaman in the chest before he could cast his offensive spell. The shaman spits out blood, and as I prepare to welcome in a sub job and IP Lucas, you are not about to get jump scared. That is against the general rules of ASMR. But welcome in. Thank you for the first time chats. And hi. Thank you for joining. I'm reading out loud to you guys from a text-based D&D inspired choose your own adventure story app. I raise my arm, and I put as much force behind my blow as I possibly can. When my dagger hits the barrier, that sounded like it may have been sarcastic. I do this because people find my voice relaxing, and I figured that I may as well lean into it. Most people fall asleep pretty quickly. The dagger hits the barrier, and I start feeling a strong vibration for about a second, but then the whole thing shatters just like a dome made of glass, and I manage to stab the shaman in the chest before he could cast his offensive spell. The shaman spits out blood. And as I prepare to land the finishing blow, the world suddenly starts spinning around me, and then I soon find myself standing in the middle of the cave again with all of my friends besides me. They also seem to have just woken up because they are now looking around themselves to confirm that they are indeed back in the abandoned mines below the ogre fort. Thank you for the, I guess, very interesting background. I've only been doing this for like a very short amount of time, so I'm still learning how to use OBS and set things up. But thanks, and thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. I'm glad you like this. Oh, it looks like you're the 170th follower. Congratulations and thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. It means a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You are starting in the middle, so you won't really know what's going on. And also, if you decide you want to read it for yourself instead of play it yourself, all of my previous read-throughs are on my YouTube. Where was I? Before I get the time to fully regain my senses, a bright green light envelops Aluna, and then it disappears almost as quickly as it appeared. Then the shaman starts laughing hoarsely before coughing some blood on the cave's floor. This is the end, Banshee, the shaman says as he coughs some more. For both of us, that spell I just cast on you was a curse of death. A shamanic spell. A shamanic spell that kills both the caster and its target. You likely have less than an hour left to live. My life was forfeited the moment I managed to get myself cornered in my own shaman ritual, but at least now I'll get the satisfaction of dragging the traitor who started all of this mess to the underworld with me. He then laughs hoarsely, and he starts to turn into ashes. Alright, well, I'm told that my voice has magic powers in making people fall asleep, even when I play horror games, so hopefully it helps. Sweet dreams, thank you for the follow and thank you for joining. Damn it, Hadrick says as he jumps towards the shaman, but all he gets to punch are his ashes, which are now slowly piling on the floor of the caverns. Aluna was in a brief state of shock after the shaman's reveal, but then her expression darkened and she went, I am from California. But then her expression darkened and she went to sit herself down on the floor, with her back leaning against one of the cave's walls. What are you waiting for? She asks when she sees us looking at her. Get going. I'll hold the ogres off here. It's not like there's much else I can do in the time that I have left. Makes sense. Why? Do I just have the California vibe? Is it true then? Rose asks what the ogre said. Yes, Aluna says. The curse is much too powerful for me to break with any of the spells I know. The shaman was being generous when he said that I'd get to live for another hour. From what I can tell, the curse will likely kill me in the next 15 minutes. No, Rose shouts. You can't give up. You can't give up like this. There has to be a way to... Rose stops mid-sentence because she sees Darren starting to move towards Aluna. When he reaches her, he lifts his sword and looks at the banshee without uttering a word. Aluna looks back at him and she laughs. Well, I'm going to say thank you? Hopefully having a California vibe is a good thing. My apologies, she said. I nearly forgot that you wanted to have me purified. Well, here I am. Give it your best shot. With a little luck, after you kill me, you might be able to wake Flower up from her stasis so that she can say her goodbyes. Shut up, Darren says as he readies his sword. Ray just likes giving me shit. You could say that I'm from heaven and he'd say that that's a bad thing. Or just disagree. But it's all in good fun. I know he actually loves me. Shut up, Darren says as he readies his sword. Darren, no! Rose shouts as Darren sticks his sword into Aluna's right leg. A bright white light surrounds the banshee for a few seconds, and then a green smoke starts to come out of her, which evaporates into thin air soon afterwards. You Aluna says in a state of complete shock. What did you... I broke the curse, Darren says. I am both a white mage and an enchanter, remember? It's only natural that my sword can do something as trivial as dispelling an ordinary death curse without you requiring me to use magic. This makes us even. You saved my life, and I saved yours. Now we can move on with our lives and never speak of these events ever again. Agreed, Luna says after a while, and she uses her healing magic to patch up her wound. Luna, thank the gods, Rose says as she comes to give her a big hug. You're going to be okay now, right? There are no other curses? No, Luna says, looking a little flustered. No other curses as far as I can tell. There's still the matter of the hordes of ogres approaching us, though. No need to worry about that, Hadrick says with a grin. I've got a plan, but first we all need to get out of the caves. Come on, move, move, move! As we all get out of the abandoned mines, Hadrick jumps into the air and he punches the rocks above the cave's entrance. The whole rocky wall crumbles and completely blocks the path that leads to the caverns. That's it? Darren asks. That's your plan? Simple but effective, don't you think? Hadrick says with a wide grin. Did it cross your mind that they might have warriors within their ranks that are capable of moving a few rocks out of the way? Darren says, not to mention all the mages that can just blow the rocks up. If they try to use explosions, they'll just bury themselves in, Aluna says, and from what I've seen while I was walking around the fort, the captain was their only warrior that had strength comparable to the dwarfs. They can still use air magic to move the rocks out of the way, but it will take them a while. That gives us more than enough time to make ourselves scarce. There you have it, Hadrick says. Come on, let's go get our backpacks. Wait, Hadrick says. I'm sensing 2 ogres hiding invisibly near the base of the hill. Are they in our way? Darren asks. No, but they might try to ambush us later, Araka says. Alright, so smart Goodberry would let them be. Smartberry would probably go kill them. Would anyone like to make a request or suggestion? If no one makes a suggestion, I will probably go with let them be. Okay. Go kill them. I think it's better to get rid of them, I say. If we let them live, they'll see which way we went and tell the other ogres when they get out of the mines. Maybe you're right, Darren says. One can never be too careful. Let's get this done real quick and then we'll head for our backpacks. We follow Araka's directions and... Can you guys hear my dog snoring? Doesn't look like it. She's snoring so loudly under my desk right now. I'm shocked. I've put some good filters on my mic, apparently. We follow Araka's directions and arrive directions and reach the 2 ogres in less than a minute. When they saw we discovered them, the ogres dismissed their invisibility spell and tried to attack us with their clubs, but Aluna beheaded them both with a single motion of her water whip. And then we all went back and headed towards the place where we'd buried our backpacks. Once we dig up all of our belongings, we waste no time and we begin our long journey. Aluna is very powerful, but she is like 600 years old, so... We waste no time, and we begin our long journey back to the Sacred Woods ruins. We've been keeping a relatively fast pace for the first hour in order to make sure that we put enough distance between ourselves and the ogres. But after confirming several times that we weren't being followed, we start to slow down a bit. The sun had already set when we left the stronghold, but there were many stars in the sky and the moon was almost full, so we decided to keep going until we were comfortable enough with the distance between ourselves and the ogre's territory. Healer, Luna says as we walk through the woods, after I released you from your cell, you promised that you wouldn't attack me until we escaped the fort. Now that we're a safe enough distance from the ogres, you are no longer bound by that promise. Should I start to prepare my defenses? No, Darren starts to say, but he pauses. I don't really feel like fighting anymore today. I see, Aluna says, eyeing him suspiciously. I'm so glad that we didn't run into any mages since we left the ruins, Rose says, trying to change the subject. It would have taken us a lot longer to complete our mission if we'd kept encountering people who attacked Kate out of the blue. Why are they attacking you specifically? Aluna asks Kate. Aren't most people in this group part of the same tournament? Yes, but I'm the only one here who gets mistaken for a banshee, Kate says. Flower tried to teach me how to suppress my aura well enough to pass for a normal human, but I just couldn't keep up with her. That girl has an extraordinary talent when it comes to learning these things herself, but she is a very poor teacher, Aluna says. The technique itself isn't that difficult to master. You only need a little guidance to learn the basics. For instance, a good starting point would be to practice calming the flow of your aura first. Here, let me show you how it's done. Luna spent the next 2 hours teaching Kate how to suppress her aura, step by step, while we kept marching towards the ruins. By the time she was done, I could see that they'd made enormous progress. Kate's magical aura was barely noticeable when she suppressed it now, and you could very well confuse her with a normal human if you didn't examine her closely. The lessons Aluna provided were interesting enough that even Hadrick and I joined in midway, and we spent more than half an hour doing various exercises suggested by her to help us hide our auras from enemies. Once we found a good camping spot, we started to set up our tents. Hadrick said that two of his spare tents needed to be fixed before they could be used again, so Rose offered to share her tent with Kate and Luna for the night. Then we started discussing about how to divide guard duty between ourselves and Kate. Rose and Hadrick unanimously voted for me and Darren to take the first shift. Their flawless synchronization when they voted for us was suspicious, to say the least. But when I decided not to call them out on it, for the time being. Before we went to sleep, Hadrick insisted that we hold a toast to celebrate our victory, but nobody seemed to be in the mood for drinking, given how tired they were after today's events. Offer to share a drink with Hadrick before taking the first shift, or leave the toast for some other time. I don't feel like smart Goodberry affects this, so if anyone would like to help me make a decision, I'm open to suggestions. If not, I'll make the decision for us. I'm leaning towards this one. Okay, I'll go with this one then. Achievement unlocked. A toast. Since nobody else offered, I told Hadrick that I'd share one drink with him before taking my shift. He pulled out 2 bottles of Dwarven ale from his backpack, and then we went to sit ourselves down on 2 rocks that were facing each other away from our tents. When giants make a toast, they first spill a little ale on the ground to also give the warriors fallen in battle something to drink, Hedrick says, as he opens our 2 bottles. I always get in trouble when I do this in Dwarven taverns, so it's refreshing to do it outside for a change. He raises his bottle. A toast, he says, for retrieving the chalice and coming one step closer to removing these blasted contraptions from our necks. We clink the two bottles, and then we both spill a bit of ale on the ground before starting to drink. This is the first time I've tasted anything like this. I felt a strong burning sensation as the ale went down my throat, and I'm already starting to feel a little dizzy. This doesn't even compare to the strongest drinks available in taverns from the Western continent. First time drinking Dwarven ale. First time drinking Dwarven ale? Hadrick asks with a grin as he sees the expression on my face. Yeah, I say. I knew this was supposed to be strong, but I guess I didn't expect it to be this much stronger than anything I've drunk before. Hedrick says, this is why I spend so much of my time in the Dwarven lands. Plus, the locals are really nice. Most of the tavern owners know that I'm a giant in disguise, but they welcome me with open arms regardless. Part of that is probably because they'd be losing 1/4 of their monthly profit if they stopped receiving me, but still. Are giants not usually welcome in Dwarven lands? Well, it's nothing official, but many of the dwarves don't really love us giants very much. There's a pretty bloody history between our two peoples, and even though we are at peace now, old grudges still remain. It also doesn't help when some smartass giant decides to go on a rampage in the middle of Dwarven territory just to satisfy his inferiority complex. Most of these troublemakers have been dealt with by our own warriors, but they usually get to do a lot of damage before they're caught, and it's not like the lives they've taken can just be brought back again. He pauses a bit to take a drink from his bottle. But enough about politics, he says. We should be discussing more important matters. Like, for example, what's going on between you and Rose? Is it just me, or have you two been getting a little closer in these past 2 days? Not at all. What makes you say that? I guess you could say that. We have been getting closer, but not in the way that you might think. I'm probably gonna go with this one, because I'm also trying to leave all romantic options open, so I have made some moves on Rose. And she hasn't flat out turned me down. Okay. I guess you could say that. Ha, I knew it, the dwarf says. I thought there might be something going on when I saw the 2 of you together yesterday night, but I wasn't really sure. Well, it's nothing official, so I'd appreciate if you kept this conversation between you and me. No worries there, lad, Hadrick says with a grin. I know that I may look like the big-mouth type, but when it comes to sensible matters like that, like these, I assure you that I can be the soul of discretion. Leaving Rose aside, though, I say, I think what we all want to know is what's going on between you and Araka. Have you proposed to her yet? The dwarf laughs. Now you're asking the right questions, he says, as he takes another drink from his bottle. I've been meaning to do it, but I just couldn't find the right moment. I'm still thinking of an excuse to give Flower or Luna to lend me the amulet for a while, so that the 2 of us can have some quality time alone together. He pauses and we both take another drink. But in all seriousness, though, Hadrick says, if it hadn't been for her intervention earlier today, I'm not sure how well I would have handled myself against that ogre captain. I have no doubts that she'd kill me without hesitation if she ever got out of that amulet. But I guess I do owe her one for now. I've never really had to work together with others to take care of my enemies before. I usually travel and fight alone, so I'm not really used to these kinds of things, but I'll admit that being part of a group has been a nice change of pace for me. To be perfectly honest, I didn't really come to this tournament to win the Magium. I came here for the experience, mostly, and I'd say it's been going pretty well so far. So, what about you, Barry? What are your plans in case you actually win this tournament? Well, I'm going to use the Magium to become a mage. Yeah, I got that. But I mean afterwards. What do you plan to do after you become a mage? I want to go on adventures. I want to gain fame and glory. I want to use my magic to help people. I want to conquer the world. I'm just in it for the money. I haven't really thought about that yet. So I'm going to go with one of these three. No, I'm going to go with adventures, help. Smart Berry's thought about it. So adventures or help. If not, I'm going for this one. I feel like I should go for this one anyways. Okay. I want to use my magic to help people. Help people, eh? Hedrick says. That sounds like something Darren would say. That sounds a lot like something Darren would say. I hadn't really pegged you for the do-gooder type, but then again, I might have gotten the wrong impression first. Helping people is well and good, but you should take care to not overdo it. You should never start completely putting aside your needs and desires for the sake of others, or you'll risk ending up as boring as Darren. Now that's just mean, I hear Rose's voice coming from behind me. What would Darren say if he heard you talk about him like that? Well, it's not like I've been keeping my opinion of him a secret, Hedrick says. Plus, that doesn't mean I don't respect him or anything. It's just that him and I aren't all that compatible, personality-wise. In fact, you'd probably find out that his opinion of me isn't that stellar either, if you'd ask him directly. But enough about that. You've come here to join us, I hope. I've got many more bottles of ale stashed up in my backpack, so there's no need for you to hold back. Actually, no, Rose says. I only came here because I had a few things to say to Barry before going to sleep. Say no more, Hedrick says as he gets up from his rock. Please, take my seat. I was just about to go back to my tent. He then raises his bottle. Cheers, Barry, he says as we both clink our bottles once more, and then we chug down the last of our ale. Okay, Barry, listen closely, Rose says in a low voice as Hedrick heads for his tent. I think you might have already realized by now that... She pauses mid-sentence as she looks at my face. Barry, are you drunk? She asks. Maybe a little, I answer her. Rose giggles. Hold on, she says. I've got some herbs in my backpack that will get you back in shape in no time, and you won't have to worry about a hangover either. I'll be right back. After she's done searching her backpack, she comes back with a fistful of red leaves, and she tells me that I need to chew them for 30 seconds. Once I'm done, I realize that my dizziness is completely gone and I can think clearly again. So, as I was saying, Rose says, you might have already realized by now that Kate, Hadrick, and I had a little discussion before voting for you and Darren to take the first shift tonight. I'm sorry that we didn't invite you as well, but someone needed to stay with Darren so he wouldn't get suspicious. Yeah, I kind of figured that something was wrong when I saw how well in sync you three were, I say. So, what's this all about then? Well, you know how Aluna said that flowers still needed to remain in stasis until at least tomorrow evening? Yeah, I remember. The thing is that Aluna hasn't slept at all since before her shift last night, and I'm starting to get a bit worried. I think she's afraid that Darren will kill her in her sleep if he sees her vulnerable, and she no longer has Flower to protect her while she's not awake. She probably only contributed to travel with us because she would be in much more danger alone than in a group, considering all of the powerful mages roaming around the continent right now and the fact that she's too tired to keep suppressing her aura until tomorrow. So you want me to keep Darren busy while you and Kate try to convince her to take a nap? Yes. Yes, that's why I persuaded Hadrick to say that 2 of his tents are unusable, so that Kate and I could sleep in the same tent as Aluna. I think we can get her to fall asleep if we promise that Kate will keep an eye on Araka's amulet to see if she tries to escape again. I sigh. I know that Darren isn't always the sharpest tool in the shed, I say, but I think you're underestimating him a little. I would be surprised if he didn't already figure out your plan. I don't care if he did or did not figure out my plan, Rose says. What I want is for him to stay away from Aluna so that she can finally get a good night's sleep. I don't think that Darren would try to hurt her while she's unconscious, but keeping him far away from her as possible is the only way Aluna can feel safe right now. I'm really sorry that I forced you into this, but I'd much rather have you with Darren than Hadrick, and I can't join you because I need to stay by Aluna's side since I'm probably the only one that she doesn't. I'm probably the only one that she somewhat trusts in our group. But if you don't feel like going through with this, I understand. I'll try and see if Hadrick. No, that's not what I meant, I say. Look, here's what we're gonna do. I'll make sure that Darren doesn't come near your tent during our shift, but if he gives any hint of having figured out what you're up to, I'm not going to start making up lies about it. If he asks, I'll tell him the truth. Deal? Rose smiles and shakes my hand. Deal, she says. All right then, I say. Well, in that case, I'll be off to begin my night shift. Wish me luck. Good luck, Barry, Rose says. And thank you. She then heads towards her tent while I grab my crossbow and start walking towards the place where Darren was sitting and polishing his weapon. Thank you for the hydrate, Misfit. No, I haven't had a chance. Sorry. I'll let you know when I do. Took you long enough, he says as I sit myself on the grass beside him. Did Rose tell you to keep me busy while they try and put the banshee to sleep? So he really did have it all figured out. Yeah, I say. She just finished giving me the briefing. Darren sighs as he slowly stops polishing his sword. Listen, Barry, he says, I realize I've been a bit of an ass lately, even more so than usual, and for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Hearing Darren give me a heartfelt apology is feeling about as natural as seeing a fire elemental bathed in a mountain spring. However, he does appear to be sincere about this. It's okay, I tell him. Don't worry about it. No, it's not okay, Darren says. I've been stubbornly hanging on to the idea that banshees cannot possibly be trustworthy, and I was almost willing to start a fight with you because of it. Even after clear evidence had been presented to me of the contrary, I still refused to believe it, and that almost ended up costing my life. You're talking about the time where you were hanging from a wooden beam in the caverns and Aluna offered you her hand? Yes, Darren says. Come to think of it, I say, you didn't start acting this way only after meeting Aluna. You've been acting strangely ever since Azarius told us about artificial mages and the Beacon of Hope. I pause for a little. Now that I think about it, I continue, I don't remember you speaking a single word to Kate after you found out that she was an artificial mage and not a banshee. Darren looks at me for a few moments as realization dawns upon him. Barry, you're right, Darren says. I really haven't spoken with Kate at all since that day. I don't know what's wrong with me. A lot of things are wrong with you, Darren. Maybe you've been subconsciously resenting her for proving you wrong. Maybe you'll feel better after you apologize to her. So, I think this one's what good Barry would do. Maybe you'll feel better if you apologize to her. Maybe you're right, Darren says. I most certainly won't be making any progress if I spend all night moping about this. He pauses for a bit before he continues. Tomorrow, I'll try to make things right, he says. I don't think I can bring myself to apologize to the Banshee, but I'll try my best to get along with her tomorrow and to show her that I no longer retain any hostility towards her. As for Kate, I'll need some time to think about how I'm going to approach this, but whatever happens, I'm not planning on letting things go on like this. Thanks for hearing me out, Barry. I think I'm feeling a little better now. It was only a few hours later that Kate and Hadrick came to take over our shift. I asked Kate in private about how things went with Aluna, and she told me that the Banshee was a bit reluctant at first, but they managed to get her to fall asleep eventually. They couldn't convince her to shut off her alarm, though, so she kept waking up every hour or so in order to check up on Araka. But at least she got enough rest to pull her through the next day. After a good night's sleep, we all got up early in the morning, packed our tents, and resumed our journey, aiming to reach the ruins by sundown. Since we knew exactly which way we were headed this time around, we could afford to keep going without stopping to look for every single one of Flower's markers, which saved us quite a few hours on our way back. Due to everything that's happened in the last few days, our group was visibly starting to become a lot more closely knit. Even though I couldn't say that we got along perfectly, the fact of having survived such hardships together by trusting and relying on each other seemed to have developed a certain bond between us. Even Araka was starting to act more like a member of the group. As a reward for her cooperation yesterday, her locket was left open, so Every now and then she would join our conversations by adding her unique commentary, even though most of it was either somehow tied to the atrocities she committed during the still winter, or a dark joke of some kind. Throughout our journey back to the ruins, Darren had tried on multiple occasions to initiate casual conversations with Luna, but his awkward attempts at trying to make up with her only managed to make her even more suspicious of his motives. Despite his boasting, however, he still didn't utter a single word to Kate by the time we'd reached our destination. The fox was quite surprised when she learned that we'd returned with the chalice. I don't think she was really expecting us to pull it off. However, she kept her word and removed all of our collars upon confirmation that the artifact we'd brought her was indeed the one she was looking for. Since we didn't really feel like spending any more time than necessary in this place, we waved goodbye to the fox and the leopard. We started heading out of the Forbidden Forest. And we prayed that we'd never see either of them again for the rest of our lives. Achievement unlocked. A touching reunion. After a few minutes after leaving the ruins, we hear a leopard calling out to us. "Wait," he says in the common tongue. "I forgot to ask, is one of you named Rose by any chance?" "I am Rose," Kate says. "Why do you ask?" "A doe named Ilaria has been waiting impatiently for your return," the leopard says. "She seemed very worried about you. Would you like me to transmit a message to her?" Rose starts to say, and she pauses. "No, I'd rather talk to her myself. Could you please tell her to come here? I'll be waiting for her." "As you wish," Leo says. "She'll be with you momentarily." "So you've finally decided to grab the bull by the horns, then?" I ask Rose, before the leopard leaves. There's no time like the present, don't you think?" Rose says, smiling. What's all of this about?" Darren asks us. "It's a secret," Rose tells him, smiling playfully. "Right," Darren says. About 10 minutes later, Ilaria finally shows up, and she pauses for a few moments to catch her breath before she begins to speak. "Rose," she says in her ancient language. "Rose, I was so worried. The animals in the forest kept talking about the group of humans captured by the golden fox, and when I recognized your descriptions, I rushed towards the Forbidden Forest as fast as I could. I was hoping I could persuade the fox to let you go, but when I learned she sent you to the ogre fortress, I had almost lost hope." When the doe finishes talking, Rose approaches her and gives her a big hug. "Thank you, Ilaria," she says. "Thank you for always looking out for me. I'm really sorry for the way I've been acting lately. I've been actively avoiding you ever since Molin's father died. I was feeling guilty, and I just couldn't bear to look you in the eyes anymore. But someone made me realize that I was only making things worse by not talking to you. I shouldn't have abandoned you like this. I should have been with you in your time of need. Can you ever forgive me for my selfishness?" "Of course," Ilaria says as a tear drops from her eye. "Of course I'll forgive you, Rose. You will always be welcome in our home, no matter what happens. Don't ever forget that. I promise I'll come back and visit you as soon as I'm done helping the sick people in my hometown," Rose says, "and I'll bring with me those blue leaves that Molin likes so much." "I'm sure that Molin will be ecstatic when I tell him this," the doe says, smiling. "Please, take care of yourself, Rose." "I will," Rose says. "I'll see you again soon. Goodbye, Ilaria, and thank you again for everything." She waves goodbye to the doe, and then we all resume our journey, while Rose looks as if a great burden had been lifted off her chest. Once we put a good distance between ourselves and the edge of the Forbidden Forest, we decide to set up camp near a small river in the area without many trees. Set up camp near a small river in an area without many trees. Flower, who had recently woken up from her stasis, was now being filled in on the details of what had happened since she'd been put to sleep. I'm so glad that Petal's plan worked out in the end, Flower says as she hears the whole story. I got a little worried when she told me that she needed to put me in a stasis for 2 days, but I decided to trust her judgment. Wait, did you say Petal's plan? Kate asks. Didn't you say that the both of you worked on this plan? Well, Flower says, feeling a little embarrassed, the truth is that Petal is the one who usually makes all of our strategies. I just follow her lead most of the time. And at first I didn't think she would help out this time around, since she was always making sure to keep her distance and not get involved with you guys. But then something happened that made her change her mind in that night before we reached the fort. She wouldn't tell me what happened exactly, but all of a sudden she became much more active in planning the whole operation, and she even took care to minimize the risks to your safety. I don't know what got into her, but I'm really glad that things turned out the way they did. Rose smiles at me. I think we both know what made Aluna change her mind before we reached the ogres. It seems that our discussion in private with her that night during her night shift had been a lot It seems that our discussion in private with her during her night shift had a lot more of an impact than we'd originally thought. Tell Flower the reason why Luna changed her mind, or keep quiet in order to spare Aluna the embarrassment. I don't feel like either of these ones impact. Like, good smart berry could go either way. I'm inclined to do this one, but I'll let, if someone is conscious and wants to weigh in, now is your chance. If not, I'll go with that one. Okay. 2 it is. It's 11:11 here. Everyone make a wish. After some careful consideration, I decide to keep Aluna's secret and spare her the embarrassment. Wait, so you're saying that you're not the one who convinced Aluna to carry out the plan? Darren asks Flower. No, like I said, she was the one who... Flower starts to say, but then she gasps loudly. Did you just call Petal by her real name? The girl asks, seemingly in a state of shock. Yeah, I guess, Darren says. Does that mean you guys are friends now? Flower asks. No, Darren and Aluna both shout simultaneously. Oh my god, it's true, Flower says. You are really friends now. You should have seen them bickering like two lovebirds during the whole trip back, Araka says. It's like they're both made for each other. Wait, your locket's open? Flower asks Araka. How come your locket's open? Petal never leaves it open. Ha! Araka says. That is a thing of the past. Due to my outstanding performance during our last mission, I have been promoted to a full-time member of the group. That means you all need to listen to my opinions from now on. For example, I think that before going to sleep, we should all hunt a few animals and put their heads on spikes around our camp in order to ward off invaders. Don't push your luck, Aluna says. Oh, gods, Flower says. So many things have happened while I was asleep. I can barely keep track of them anymore. Hold on, I need to write all this stuff down. After finishing up our conversation with Flower and setting up all of our tents, we all took a little break from eating food. We all took a little break to eat some food. Since the girl had magical energy to spare after her long nap, she offered to conjure for each of us a dish of our own choosing. I wasn't particularly hungry, so I just asked for some lemon cakes. Everyone else went all out, however, and asked for the most extravagant dishes that came to their minds, like manticore ribs seasoned with a variety of spices or griffin wings coated with honey. Everyone except Kate, that is, given that she hadn't really had the luxury of ever tasting any food other than the one she'd hunted herself. She simply asked for roasted duck eggs as she went to eat by herself on a log a few dozen feet away from our camp. After eating my fill of lemon cakes, I went over to Kate's side to see how she was doing. I caught her staring blankly at one of the trees in front of her, and she didn't even notice me until I placed myself right in front of her. Still thinking about Diane? I asked her. Kate looked a bit shaken aback by my straightforwardness, but in the end she decided to answer me honestly. Yes, she says. She's been on my mind ever since I woke up in those ruins, but I've been trying my best not let it show, given the situation we were in. Here, I tell her, have some lemon cakes. I've already eaten my fill. Thanks, she says, as she accepts my offer. Tell her about how Diane defended us from the Lysathi to help ease Kate's mind, or ask her if she's still going to look for Diane after what happened. I'm gonna go with this one. I feel like that's what smart Goodberry would do. You know, I say. Oh, Nick Birch, you're still here. I thought you left. Thank you for the hydrate. You know, after you guys fell unconscious due to... That's fair. Well, buenos dias? Yeah, the sun is male. Buenos dias. You know, I say, after you guys fell unconscious due to Diane's attack, I managed to stay awake for a little while longer because of my higher resistance to electricity. When she hears my words, Kate raises her head and starts watching me intently. I saw the Lasathi she was working with, I continue. They both wanted to have us killed, but your friend stood up to them. She said she'd kill them if they laid a finger on either of us. She's the reason why we're still alive right now. Kate laughs. And also the reason why we've almost been killed by a fox goddess and by a fort full of ogres in the past few days, she says. I get why you're telling me this, and I'm grateful for your concern, but I already suspected that what she said and did was her own way of trying to look out for me. That, however, does not excuse her behavior and the way she put all of us in even greater danger through her actions. She's always been like this. She would not think twice before doing what she thought was right, but that would often only result in her making things even worse than they were before. I swear, I'm going to give her one hell of a beating when I see her again. Does that mean you're still going to participate in the tournament? Yes, She pauses. I no longer have any leads on Diane's whereabouts, Kate says, and if the organizers eventually announce some objectives, I'll have to at least try to complete their tasks to avoid getting disqualified for lack of participation. Until then, I was thinking of sticking around with you guys. That is to say, if... She pauses again. If you'll have me, she continues. Of course we'll have you, Kate, I say. I know that Darren has been acting a little strange lately, but trust me when I say that. I pause mid-sentence because I see that Darren is now heading towards us with a very uncomfortable look on his face. Speak of the devil, I say to Kate in a low voice. Listen, Kate says, looking at Kate when he gets a little closer. There's something I've been meaning to tell you for a while, but I couldn't really find the right moment. Oh God, so you're not going to propose to me, are you? Kate says. Damn it, no! Darren says, and then he immediately tries to regain his composure. That's not what I meant. It's just that lately I haven't really talked to you. Actually, I haven't even spoken a word to you for days. Really? Kate says, looking genuinely surprised. I never noticed. Kate looks like he's about to lose his cool again, but this time he manages to rein in his emotions. I stopped talking to you right after Zarius told us you were an artificial mage, he says. I was just so convinced that you were a banshee from the very beginning, and after I heard what he said, He pauses. I was wrong, he says, after a while deciding not to continue his previous sentence. Even if, on the surface, I was acting like your friend, in reality, I never let my guard down around you, and I was expecting you to betray us and turn into a monster at any moment. And to make matters worse, after learning the truth, instead of trying to make amends, I spent my time sulking like some 4-year-old who'd dropped his candy bar in a sewer. I realize that it is way beyond late now, but I couldn't just let things go on like this forever. The reason why I came here to apologize to you, the reason why I came here to you tonight is that I wanted to apologize. It looked like it took every ounce of his strength to utter that last word. I don't think I've seen him this tense even when we were battling the Hydra in the Lasathi ruins. I'm sorry, what was that? Kate says. You'll have to repeat that last word you said because I could barely hear it. Damn it, woman. Darren says, you know very well what I said. Don't make me repeat it. Now, do you accept my apology or not? Immediately after Darren finishes his sentence, Kate starts to laugh, but her laughter is sounding much more natural than ever before. When he first heard her, Darren looked as if he were about to blow his fuse again, but then he realized that there was no hint of malice in Kate's laughter, so he eventually calmed down. I'm sorry, Kate says as she struggles to contain her laughter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mock you. It's just that I didn't think that this would be the kind of thing that would trouble you so much. Of course I accept your apology. I was being honest when I said I never noticed you ignoring me all this time. The two of us never really talked all that much, so none of this seemed strange to me. But I really appreciate you coming out to me like this. Thank you. This made me feel a lot better. She smiles. I'm not sure what this is all about. We hear Hadrick's voice coming from behind Darren, but I'm willing to bet that this would be the best moment to finally hold that victory celebration. When he placed 5 bottles of Dwarven ale on the ground, he then places 5 bottles of Dwarven ale on the ground and grins at us. I suppose so, Kate says, smiling. Hold on, Darren says. Our collars might have been removed, but we're still in dangerous territory here. What if we're attacked by some mages or monsters after we have our little party? Who's going to defend us from our enemies if we're all plastered? There's no need to worry about that, Rose says as she approaches us, holding a small pouch in her left hand. These leaves I have in my bag are a natural remedy for drunken stupors. You just need to chew them for half a minute, and all of the dizziness should be gone in a flash, without even having to worry about a hangover afterwards. Perfect, the dwarf says. Then there's no need for us to hold back. I'll go bring more bottles. Ooh, is that Dwarven ale? Flower says as she sees the 5 bottles lying on the ground. I've always wanted to try Dwarven ale. No ale for you, young lady, Hadrick says. Little girls should not be drinking alcoholic beverages of any kind. It's not good for you. But I'm not a little kid. Flower says, I'm 30 years old. You may be 30 years old, but your alcohol tolerance is still that of a 9-year-old. Aluna says, you can barely even stand on your feet after drinking a glass of wine. Petal, you're not helping, Flower says as the rest of us start to laugh. You're not helping at all. After the long overdue celebration was finally over, we each went to sleep in our respective tents, except for Hadrick and Darren, who took the first shift. For those few hours while we drank together, it felt hard to believe that we'd been risking our lives fighting ogres just one day prior. It almost felt like I was back at home, spending a night out in a tavern with some friends, far away from all the madness of this tournament. It was nice to have a night like this for a change. Who knows? Maybe the worst is all behind us, and every night from now on will be like this as well. A man's allowed to dream, right? With these final thoughts, I put my head on the pillow, and I woke the next morning feeling completely refreshed. This time around, I got the lucky draw, and I didn't need to take any shifts, which was a nice change of pace from all the sleepless nights I've been having lately. Since we didn't have a fixed time limit anymore, we all decided to sleep in today, so it was already 10 o'clock in the morning by the time I got out of my tent. Taking a look around the camp, it seemed that everyone else had already gotten up for some time, and they were just about to finish their breakfast. He awakens at last, Darren says as he sees me getting out of my tent. Did you enjoy your 10 hours of interrupted sleep, Barry? It's too bad you missed breakfast, though. Flower really outdid herself this time, too. Her food-making skills are simply divine. But don't worry. I'm sure we can still scrounge up some cold leftovers for you to eat if you're really hungry. That's mighty generous of you. I see it didn't take you long to turn into an ass again. As tempting as that sounds, I think I'd rather go see if Flower is still taking orders. I think the smart berry would go with this one, so I'm gonna go with this one. As tempting as that sounds, I think I'd rather go see if Flower is still taking orders. As it turns out, the girl was actually waiting for me to wake up in order to prepare my breakfast. After she conjures my food, she hands me the plate with an excited look on her face. Ta-da! She says, a traditional breakfast from your homeland. Quail eggs with ham and bagelberry cheese. Actually, this isn't really a traditional meal in the Western continent, I say. What, it's not? Flower says, disappointed. But I was sure I read about this somewhere in a book detailing the Western culture. No, this isn't anything traditional, I say. It's a select meal eaten by only a handful of nobles in a few of the rich cities on our continent. Which makes it even better. Thanks a bunch. Well, I'm glad you like it, Flower says, smiling. I've still got a lot of magical energy left, so don't hesitate to ask for seconds if you want. After everyone's finished eating, we decide to hold a meeting and establish what our plans were. Now that we were finally free of our collars. The three of us had already promised Rose that we were going to escort her safely to her hometown, Darren says as he points towards me and Kate. So that's where we're headed right now. Hadrick, Flower, you have no obligations to keep traveling with us, so we can part ways here if you want. Actually, traveling with this group has provided me with the most fun I've had in years, Hadrick says. The objectives of the tournament still haven't been announced, so I don't really have anything specific to do until then. If it's all the same to you, then I'd rather tag along. How about you, Flower? Kate says. Well, Flower says, looking a little hesitant, I wouldn't want to be a bother to anyone. What, are you kidding? Hadrick says, you can spit fire, jump on walls, and make food out of nothing. Who would be crazy enough to not want you in their group? Nobody here would ever turn you away after how much you've helped us, Flower, Rose says, and don't you even for a second think that you could ever be a bother to us. The question here is what you want to do. Would you like to keep traveling with us? Yes, Flower says, beaming. I would love to. And Luna? Kate asks. How does she feel about all of this? All of our eyes are fixed upon the girl as her own eyes turn bright blue and Aluna starts looking around her nervously. I guess it wouldn't hurt us too much to accompany you for a while longer, she says. It's settled then, Darren says. Pack your bags, we're leaving in half an hour. Now hold on there, Araka says. Is nobody going to ask me how I feel about all of this? What if I told you that I am deeply unsatisfied with this group's abysmal kill per hour ratio, and that I'd only consider continuing our collaboration if you promise to work on improving it, huh? What then? We all stare at Araka's amulet for a few seconds until Hadrick decides to break the silence. All right then, he says. It's time for us to start dismantling our tents. Meet you all back here in 30 minutes. Hey! Araka says as we start heading towards our tents. Hey! Don't you dare ignore me! Do you hear me? Come back here. I'm not done complaining yet. It took me a while, but after I got done with my tent and my backpack, I head back towards our meeting spot, where everyone except Kate seemed to have already arrived. As I got closer, I saw that Flower was currently spinning Araka's amulet by the chain with a displeased expression on her face. This chain is starting to get old, she says. We'll need to get a new one next time we're in a city. That's great, Araka shouts. Now if you're done testing the chain's durability, maybe you could stop with the spinning. Oh, right, sorry. Flower says as she grabs the amulet and puts it back around her neck. I forgot you had motion sickness. Wait, seriously? Hadrix asks with a laugh. The almighty, invincible Banshee can't handle a little spinning? It's because she's trapped in the amulet, Aluna says. It's messing with her senses. She didn't have any problems with this when she was possessing animal bodies. Oh, good. Kate's here, Darren says as he sees Kate approaching us. I guess we should be good to go then. Where are we headed exactly? Hadric asks. The city of Thilius, Rose says. It's a small harbor town near the southern coast. It's lovely this time of year. Okay, I'm here, Kate says as she joins the rest of us. Let's get going. Wait, Flower says. I just remembered something. The plates! I forgot to wash the plates! Who cares about the plates? Darren asks. Can't you just conjure new ones out of nowhere like you do with the food? Yeah, but it would be a waste to just leave them here, Flower says. They sell for a pretty good price on the market. This won't take long, I promise. I'll just pick them up quick and wash them in the river. I'll be right back. You know, I've always wondered about something, Hedrick tells Darren as Flower rushes past him. If they call you guys white mages, then shouldn't necromancers be called black mages? You know, to keep the theme going? Actually, that's a common misconception, Darren says. This has nothing to do with warriors of light fighting the forces of darkness. The only reason why white mages are called that is because of the bright light that appears when they cast most of their spells. It's not really an official name, but I guess it kind of stuck. Some white mages with a stick up their arse sometimes even get offended when they're called like that, and Darren stopped talking because a familiar figure had just appeared out of thin air in front of them. The boy with his eyes closed and his hands in his pockets with a polite smile on his face. Greetings, friends, Eden says. I come bearing news. Eden, Darren says with a frown. Now, Eden says, there's no need to be so hostile. I only came to help. Wait, how did you find us? I ask him. By tracing your auras, of course. Eden says, I just finished my business on the other side of the island, and I thought I'd pop by for a visit. How could you possibly have identified us just by our auras from that far away? Our auras are much more complex than you may think, Barry, Eden says. Most people only use them to learn of a person's magical prowess, and maybe to understand their basic emotional state. But a person's aura is capable of showing us much more than that. With enough practice, you will see that each person's aura is unique, and it can be used to track them down from a great distance if your magical sense is sharp enough. Mine happens to cover the whole island of Varathia. You mean to say that you can find out any person's whereabouts at any given time? I say. Yes, but like I said, auras can be used for many other things, Eden says. For example, if you study a person's aura fluctuations carefully enough, you can tell if they're lying or not. Besides that, you can also find out their age, their race, and their mental state. If you tamper with a person's aura enough, you can even stop them from aging. Speaking of auras, Barry, I happened to see your aura in very close proximity to two Lysathi a few days ago. Did you remember to give them my message? Crap. He's talking about the two Lysathi that were with Diane. His stupid message was the last thing on my mind at the time. What am I supposed to tell him now? I was unconscious at the time I never even got to see the Lasathi, or I'm sorry, I was barely even able to talk at that point. I'd just been electrocuted. Well, Smart Barry would know that he had just said that he can tell when people are lying, so... I'm sorry, I was barely even able to talk at that point. I'd just been electrocuted. That is true, Eden says. I could tell even from afar that you were barely able to hold on to your senses at that time. Yes, exactly, I said. That's why I couldn't. However, Eden says, if delivering my message had been your first priority, you would have surely been able to find the resources necessary to fulfill your task. Wait, listen, I say. We can find other Lasathi. We can still deliver the message. Barry, Eden says, I'm starting to get the impression that you're not taking me very seriously. What are you talking about? I say. Of course I'm taking you seriously. This will not do, Eden says. How am I supposed to get my point across if you're not taking me seriously? Listen, I say. I get why you may be thinking this, but trust me when I say that. I know, Eden says, with a smile all of a sudden. I should kill one of your friends. That should make you take me more seriously. What did you just say? I ask him. All of a sudden, I hear Rose starting to gasp for air loudly. Rose! Darren says. What's happening? Rose tries to say something, but she doesn't manage to get enough air in her lungs to articulate her words properly. You shouldn't force yourself to speak, Rose, Eden says. After all, the airways to your lungs are currently slowly closing themselves in. You should focus all your effort on breathing as much air as possible. You bastard! Darren shouts as he pulls out his sword. I'm going to kill... Before he manages to finish a sentence, Darren falls to the ground, completely paralyzed. And the same thing that happens to everyone else except me and Rose immediately afterwards. Your friends can't help you this time, Barry, Eden says. What are you going to do? A feeling of panic overwhelms me all of a sudden. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. We were finally rid of the callers. We were rid of them. Everything was going to be okay. Why did you have to come back? Why? Time is running out, Barry, Eden says. Your friend is at the end of her rope. How are you going to stop me? How am I going to stop him? I still have no idea how he powered up my stat device when I fought the dragon, and I don't know any of his weaknesses. Does he even have weaknesses? Are there any words that can get me out of this like last time? What would make him let her go? What would convince him to let this slide? What am I supposed to do? All of a sudden, there's a loud noise of plates shattering to our right, and Rose finally manages to take a long breath as both Eden and I turn to identify the source of the sound. Rose is just standing there. Or Flower is just standing there. So they managed to get the collars off, they managed to get the chalice and everything. Flower is finally awake. Flower is the 9-year-old girl that shares a body with Aluna, the Banshee. Because when she tried to possess the Banshee, she wasn't able to fight off Flower's soul. So now their souls are fused. So they share the body. So Flower finally woke up. They all decided to be friends and are about to go and deliver Rose to her home city, because that's what they were originally trying to do. Eden is this ultra powerful Stillwater, which means he has the aura of a normal human, but is more powerful than any other mage alive. And he is also crazy. He walks around with his eyes closed because he can use his magical sense to see and sense everything, and he's tired of seeing the ugliness of humanity, in his own words. And he traded their life for he was going to kill them, and then Barry managed to make a deal that if they saw any Lysathi, he would deliver a message. But they weren't able to do that because last time he was electrocuted and was thinking about other things, so he forgot to do it. And now Eden says he's going to kill one of their friends so that they'll take his message more seriously. Now you're caught up. Sort of. Any questions? Time is running out, Barry, Eden says. Your friend is at the end of her rope. How are you going to stop me? How am I going to stop him? I still have no idea how he powered up my stat device. Lysathi is an ancient race of people that only live on the continent of Rathia, which is where they are right now. They have almost no magical aura, less than a normal human, and they are very, very skilled at building magical devices that are super complex and work really well. And they also used they're not exactly all that morally, they don't like humans. And there was an orphanage that Kate was in where they experimented on human children to try and create artificial mages, and she was one of 3 known successes. So she's an artificial mage, she was not born a mage. And there are not supposed to be female mages for reasons we do not know yet. Yeah, the message that the Stillwater asked them to deliver is, remember the still winter, which they're pretty sure is a threat. Eden is scary. And I think he would be defined as a chaotic evil. Yeah, chaotic evil. He doesn't like humans. Yeah. Part of me is like chaotic neutral, but no. He's chaotic evil. Does he even have any weaknesses? Are there any words that can get me out of this like last time? What would make him let her go? What would convince him to let this slide? What am I supposed to do? Oh, also, they're able to tell by Barry's aura that he is a Lysathi, but he didn't know, and they have no idea how a Lysathi was raised on outside of Varathia, or how they even got there, and how he doesn't know that he was a Lysathi. But they can tell from his aura, meaning that there's no magical aura, that he is, in fact, a Lysathi. All of a sudden, there's a loud noise of plates shattering to our right, and Rose finally manages to take a long, deep breath as both Eden and I identify the source of the sound. Flower is just standing there with an expression of pure shock on her face, and with a dozen shattered plates lying at her feet. Well, if it isn't Aluna of the Sacred Woods Massacre, Eden says, smiling. It's been 20 years, I believe. How have you been? Flower's expression quickly turns to quickly changes into one of pure rage as her eyes turn bright red and her aura starts to fluctuate violently. "You!" she shouts as she points at Eden. "I'll kill you! I'll kill you!" She then jumps towards Eden and starts throwing a flurry of fireballs at him, as the Stillwater casually dodges each one of them without even using any magic. Flower then shoots a beam of fire that engulfs Eden completely, but it simply passes him by and leaves him unharmed. "You killed them," Flower says. "You killed them all. Bring them back. Do you hear me? Bring them back." She then conjures a dragon made entirely of fire that flies towards Eden and starts to attack him with its claws. Flower also joins the battle up close, and she tries to punch the Stillwater with her flaming fists. "Luna?" Eden says as he parries the girl's strikes with one hand and the dragon's with the other. Do you think you could put a stop to this? I'm kind of starting to lose my patience here." For a second, the girl's eyes turned bright blue, and I could clearly see the fear in them. The next moment, Flower stopped moving, and she looked as if she were being held against her will by an invisible force. "Let me go, Petal," the girl says as tears start to form in her eyes as she struggles to break free. "Let me go. I have to kill him. I have to." After trying in vain to free herself for a few more seconds, Flower then turns towards us. "It's him," she tells us. "Don't you see? He's the one. He's the one who destroyed the city of Ulmnar." All right. Next chapter. And since my throat is sore and I've probably been reading for over like close to 2 hours now, I don't know when I started, I'm gonna call it here. So I'll save. Yeah, okay. Close to 2 hours. Did you start a timer? Alright, so that is correct. And now I will go to Cloud Saves menu. Transfer achievements to the cloud. Transfer checkpoint to the cloud. Transfer save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Back. Still there. Alright. Quick game. Oh, and since you also don't know this, but they will explain it at the beginning of the next chapter. When he was explaining Stillwaters at the very beginning, he was saying that the Stillwaters, rumors say that a Stillwater was so powerful that 20 years ago, one was rumored to have destroyed an entire city and all of the people in it, the city of Ulmnar, with just the wave of his hand. Yeah. Ulmnar's, or Eden's chaotic evil. It's kind of a dick. Oh, Pump Razor, thank you so much for the follow. I'm finishing up, sorry to say. He has his reasons that you'll find out later. But I have played this before, but I've only played my playthrough, which was neither, it was sort of like good, smart, sort of very. So there's still stuff that's happening that's new to me. And I'm planning on doing pretty much every path. I want to get all of the achievements eventually. Let's see. There. Okay. Main menu, achievements, book 1. So only 14 of 35. Oh, this is the last chapter. Oh, I managed to get all of them from last chapter. Dope. Chucky, thank you so much for the hydrate. All right. So I'm going to end the recording. I don't need to end the stream yet. So yeah, thank you everyone for yeah.